bom dia, Shalom Havrim, muito bom dia para todos vocês, um beijão no coração de todos, um forte abraço, eu sou o Gustavo, muito obrigado mais uma vez por aturarem esse chato logo pela manhã. Saibam que é uma alegria enorme saber que no caminho para o trabalho, desde o Preto Móvel, já tem gente aguardando, tomando cafezinho, esperando a resenha com o Preto Latino. Muito obrigado mesmo. Hoje, segunda-feira, que dia é hoje? 9 ou 10? 9 de dezembro, indo para o trabalho, dando uma caroninha para vocês e todos aqui sintonizados no seu, no meu, no nosso canal 4USA Flórida. Hoje transmitindo para o 4SA Flórida, espero que esteja saindo também no projeto Ezequiel 33, não estou seguro, não estou certo, porque as últimas vezes que eu tentei não consegui, transmitindo também pelo Twitter, através da plataforma do Periscope, que é a plataforma que transmite ao vivo para o Twitter, transmitindo também para o Twitch. E uma nova plataforma que eu aprendi essa semana, conheci essa semana através do canal do Adam Green. Minha esposa gosta muito dele, ele mora lá na Califórnia, e juntamente com o Steve Binum, é um dos caras que mais tem falado sobre a influência dos sionistas no governo americano. E como o FoxTube amanhã muda tudo, não sei se esse canal vai continuar, se eles vão tirar, já desmonetizaram, bloqueiam vídeos mundialmente, então não sei o que pode acontecer com o canal amanhã, dia 10 de dezembro. O Adam Green comentou sobre essa plataforma chamada D-Live, D de Diego Live, L de Laura, I de Ivan, V de Valentim, E de Eduardo, D-Live. E o logo parece que é um cara com uma máscara ninja. Eu já criei uma conta lá e acho que está saindo a transmissão lá nessa plataforma. Vamos ver, é uma plataforma tipo Twitch, mais para jogos, mas eu vi alguns canais, tem um pessoal que toca violão ao vivo, faz uma performance ao vivo, então eu achei divertido e não custa nada, é grátis. Então coloquei o canal lá também. No BitChute, infelizmente, não dá para fazer transmissões ao vivo, somente fazer o upload de vídeos já gravados. Mas estamos aí, né, explorando outras alternativas, logicamente também a do Sandro Rocha, SR News TV, e espero que pronto. Ontem eu não acompanhei o Hangouts dele, eu até esqueci e comecei aquele que supostamente seria a segunda parte do Retorno dos Nefilins e acabou que falamos de outra coisa. Mas eu espero que o Sandro Rocha também capacite os canais para que possam transmitir ao vivo, assim como estou fazendo agora. Muito bom dia para as mães, bom dia para os administradores do canal, dos grupos, muito bom dia para você, arroz de festa, já conhecido, batido, já na boca de todos, e você que hoje talvez, ou semana passada, você começou a acompanhar as transmissões aqui no canal, saibam que sejam todos muito bem-vindos. E hoje, pessoal, o tema estará baseado em 2 vídeos relacionados com o tema que é Assassinato Econômico, como escravizar uma nação. Esse título foi tirado de um vídeo de um cara, John Perkins, que também agora escreve livros, onde ele mostra e ensina como o sistema financeiro, a banca mundial, que é controlada pelos Rothschilds, judeus sionistas, ou dizem-se judeus, mas não são, como eles escravizam nações através de empréstimos. Mas antes eu creio ser interessante mostrar um vídeo de uma entrevista do Entre Guedes, se não me engano, foi na véspera da primeira viagem do Bolsonaro a Davos, na Suíça. Bolsonaro, assim que eleito, a primeira viagem, e depois que tomou posse, né? Mas antes mesmo da posse, ele já havia sido convidado pelo CFR, que apadrinhou a campanha dele. O vídeo está no canal, mas se vocês forem no YouTube e colocarem assim: Bolsonaro visita o CFR, aí vocês verão a entrevista que ele teve com a Shannon K. O'Neill, onde eu reporto o que foi feito. O Odalisco, anos atrás, havia escrito que o CFR era lugar de demônios e pessoas endemoniadas, mas depois que o Bolsonaro esteve lá, ele disse que é importante para o bem de uma nação ter uma comunhão com o CFR, ou seja, passou o pano, elogiou. Antes criticou, chamou de lugar de demônios, endemoniados, e depois que o Bolsonaro esteve lá, ele apadrinhou, passou o pano, já que ele trabalha para os sionistas. Então, nessa viagem, o Paulo Guedes foi, já que o Bolsonaro foi intimado a comparecer a esse fórum econômico em Davos, na Suíça, com a presença do CFR, para explicar quais seriam as medidas e os planos a serem implantados no Brasil. Então eu vou tocar para vocês, primeiramente, a entrevista do Entre Guedes, e depois eu mostro esse vídeo de 16 minutos, como escravizar uma nação realizando um assassinato econômico.
It is an important moment. Many people have high expectations for what you can deliver. Talk to me about how important this moment is.
Well, state-centered economy led us to political corruption and economic stagnation. Public expenditures rise from 18-20% in the last 4 decades. They reached 45% of GDP. So we are prisoners of a low-growth trap, lots of corruption, excess public spending, and it's a moment of changing the axis. We are going in the direction of a market-driven economy. We're going to privatize public companies. We are going to open the economy to reduce and simplify taxes. And we'll take advantage, probably, because we are out of sync with the global economy.
There are some optics going on here that I want to dig into a little bit, and then we'll get to the substance. When you ask people why they were looking forward to President Bolsonaro coming into power, they said it was his economic agenda. But actually, you dig a little bit deeper, it was your economic agenda they were buying into. I think there's some key man risk here. How committed are you to what is about to happen in Brazil? How long will you be around for?
Well, I've been committed to opening the economy, privatizing, and integrating it to the global economy for more than 30 years, 40 years. I feel like we are 40 years late in this agenda of liberalization. But we, in the financial circles, think that Bolsonaro was elected because of the economic agenda. This is a misperception, a complete misperception. What happened in Brazil was a political alliance of conservatives at the center and liberals at the center and the right.
Yeah.
After 30 years of social democrat dominance, it's like you have 30 years of Democrats in the US. Any Republican would win the next election. Or you had 30 years of Labour in the UK. Any conservative would win the next election. So you were seeing a very vibrant democracy at work. There was never a risk like the losers in the Brazilian election were trying to convey to international opinion, like, well, Brazil is at risk, it could be closed politically. This is a misperception, a complete misperception.
Well, let's talk about the substance. What can you get done? The optics are better, fine. The financial markets has bought into your idea. What can you get done in the next 12 months?
Well, next 30 to 60 days we are going to send to the Congress because we don't want to jam the Congress with 3, 4, 5 simultaneous reforms.
What's the priority? Number one?
Number one is Social Security reform. It goes, expenditures in Social Security go up $13, $14 billion a year. It's a snowball hole, big fiscal hole. So the first thing has to be addressed is the Social Security reform. We have a very obsolete pay-as-you-go financing system. Brazil is already going out of gas with this system. before the population got aged. We have less than 11% of the population retiring, and we already broke the system. So we need to fix the old system and launch a new one in transition to a capitalization rate.
So that's priority number one. I believe you've got a budget deficit around 7.5% of GDP. Your goal is to eliminate that. How quickly can you get that
More
down?
than half of that will go out just with the Social Security reform. We also have lots of concessions in oil. The other half of it will go out this year with concessions of oil. We have a huge pipeline of privatizations. So in terms of cash, we'll zero the budget this year. But of course, it's not a recurrent.
You can get the budget deficit down to zero this year?
We'll get it. At least we'll go like the private companies work, with big, bold targets.
Okay, so let's talk about that. You think you can get the budget deficit down to zero this year. You're talking about an aggressive pipeline of nationalizations becoming privatizations. You take the national companies, you privatize them. How aggressive can you be? How much money can you raise from privatizations this year?
Well, we think that this year we could, with selling some state companies, subsidiaries of 2 or 3 critical, great companies, they would raise cash and they would pay back the central government. Some public banks and some public state companies have borrowed money from the union. The union has lent this money and we want this money back. So in terms of cash, we will zero the deficit this year, but not on a permanent basis, because the permanent basis requires the structural reforms like the Social Security.
How do we understand
and so
that a little bit clearly? You want to leverage the balance sheet of these state companies?
Deleverage. We will deleverage the balance sheet of some
of the state companies,
of some public or some state banks that
but
were
for the state companies
leveraged.
Specifically, are they going to be
Well,
sold?
I'll say BNDES has borrowed like 500 billion reales, which is around $200 billion of the union. And we want to deleverage that. As a matter of fact, President Dilma was ousted. She suffered impeachment exactly on fiscal irresponsibility grounds because she leveraged the state banks.
Before we go over the old politics, we could be here forever. I really want to understand with you the privatizations and how much money you can actually raise, because it's still not clear to me. You're going to be very aggressive, I understand that, but can we put a number on how much you can raise in the next 12 months from privatizations?
I would say that at least $20 billion.
$20 billion?
Yeah.
And you think that's going to take it down out of the budget deficit?
Well, this would be around half of it, more than half of it, for instance, on a cash basis.
And a final question on the subsidies. Phasing out the subsidies is a big concern at the moment around that. Can you be a little clearer as to what you want to do with the subsidies?
Subsidies today are around $100 billion, subsidies. So if we cut 10% of it, is already another $30 billion, another $10 billion.
And you want to do that this year too?
Well, we'll do it. The thing is, most urgent things are structural reform. So if we start talking about cutting subsidies here and there, I lose political support to make the most important reform, which is exactly the Social Security. So why to engage in small battles if I have a big battle ahead?
Bom, aí está, né? A entrevista do Paulo Guedes, onde ele fala que prometia zerar o déficit público ainda esse ano. Lembrando que essa entrevista foi esse ano no início. Se não me engano, foi quando o presidente esteve em Davos, na Suíça, para o Fórum Econômico e foi intimado pelo padrinho da sua eleição, o CFR, a fim de apresentar os planos que o Paulo Guedes e ele tinham para o Brasil. E o Paulo Guedes disse aí, prometeu zerar o déficit público de 7,5% do PIB ainda esse ano, somente com a reforma da Previdência, fora as privatizações, concessões de petróleo, privatizações de petróleo, etc, 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 etc. Bom, aconteceu? Não, mas está em processo, está a caminho, já que existe uma grande divisão dentro do parlamento brasileiro e a intenção dele é privatizar tudo, acabar com tudo. Caso você não tenha entendido muito, depois dessa transmissão, eu recomendo que vocês vejam novamente essa entrevista e aqui será mostrada a continuação. Eu creio que a legenda não está assim, num tamanho tal como essa do Paulo Guedes e passa um pouco rápido, por isso também creio que será necessário que, para que você entenda como a banca mundial que controla as finanças do mundo, e banca essa que tem o nosso presidente como marionete em suas mãos, o que eles fazem para escravizar uma nação. O cara, ele era mestre em realizar esse assassinato econômico, acabar com um país, endividar um país, arrumar empréstimos trilionários gigantes, sabendo que aquela nação não teria condições de pagar. Aí então eles se apoderavam dos recursos naturais que aquela nação tinha a oferecer. Algo semelhante ao que está acontecendo ao nosso querido Brasil? Sim, muito semelhante. E aqui, no caso, qualquer semelhança não é mera coincidência, porque eu não acredito em coincidências. Vamos a essa entrevista.
We economic hitmen really have been the ones responsible for creating this first truly global empire. And we work many different ways. But perhaps the most common is that we will identify a country that has resources our corporations covet, like oil, and then arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sister organizations. But the money never actually goes to the country. Instead, it goes to our big corporations to build infrastructure projects in that country, power plants, industrial parks, ports, things that benefit a few rich people in that country, in addition to our corporations, but really don't help the majority of the people at all. However, those people, the whole country is left holding a huge debt. It's such a big debt they can't repay it, and that's part of the plan, that they can't repay it. And so at some point, we economic hitmen go back to them and say, listen, you owe us a lot of money, can't pay your debt, so sell your oil real cheap to our oil companies. Allow us to build a military base in your country, or send troops in support of ours to someplace in the world like Iraq, or vote with us on the next UN vote, to have their electric utility company privatized and their water and sewage system privatized and sold to U.S. corporations or other multinational corporations. So there was that whole mushrooming thing, and it's so typical of the way the IMF and the World Bank work, that you put a country in debt, it's such a big debt it can't pay it, and then you offer to refinance that debt and pay even more interest, and you demand this quid pro quo, which you call a conditionality or good governance, which means basically that they've got to sell off their resources, including many of their social services, their utility companies, their school systems sometimes, their penal systems, their insurance systems, to foreign corporations. So it's a double, triple, quadruple whammy. The precedent for economic hitmen really began back in the early 50s when democratically elected Mossadegh, who was elected in Iran. He was considered to be the hope for democracy in the Middle East and around the world. He was Time Magazine's Man of the Year. But one of the things that he'd run on and began to implement was the idea that foreign oil companies needed to pay the Iranian people a lot more for the oil that they were taking out of Iran. The Iranian people should benefit from their own oil. Strange policy. We didn't like that, of course. But we were afraid to do what we normally were doing, which was to send in the military. Instead, we sent in one CIA agent, Kermit Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt's relative. And Kermit went in with a few $1 million and was very, very effective and efficient. And in a short amount of time, he managed to get Mossadegh overthrown and brought in the Shah of Iran to replace him, who always was favorable to oil. And it was extremely effective.
Bombs overflow Tehran. Army officers shout that Mossadegh has surrendered and his regime as virtual dictator of Iran is ended. Pictures of the Shah are paraded through the streets as sentiment reverses. The Shah is welcomed home.
So back here in the United States, in Washington, people looked around and said, wow, that was easy and cheap. So this established a whole new way of manipulating countries, of creating empire. The only problem with Roosevelt was that he was a card-carrying CIA agent, and had he been caught, the ramifications could have been pretty serious. So very quickly at that point, the decision was made to use private consultants to channel the money through the World Bank or the IMF or one of the other such agencies, to bring in people like me who worked for private companies, so that if we got caught, there would be no governmental ramifications. When Arbenz became president of Guatemala, the country was very much under the thumbs of United Fruit Company, the big international corporations. And Arbenz ran on this ticket that says, we want to get the land back to the people. And once he took power, he was implementing policies that would do exactly that, give the land rights back to the people. United Fruit didn't like that very much. And so they hired a public relations firm, launched a huge campaign in the United States to convince the United States people, the citizens of the United States, and the press of the United States, and the Congress of the United States, that Arbenz was a Soviet puppet, and that if we allowed him to stay in power, the Soviets would have a foothold in this hemisphere. And that at that point in time was a huge fear on everybody's mind, the Red Terror, the Communist terror. And so, to make a long story short, out of this public relations campaign came a commitment on the part of the CIA and the military to take this man out. And in fact, we did. We sent in planes, we sent in soldiers, we sent in jackals, we sent everything in to take him out, and did take him out. And as soon as he was removed from office, the new guy that took over after him basically reinstated everything to the big international corporations, including United Fruit. Ecuador for many, many years had been ruled by pro-US dictators, often relatively brutal. Then it was decided that they were going to have a truly democratic election. Jaime Roldos ran for office, and his main goal, he said, as president would be to make sure that Ecuador's resources were used to help the people. And he won, overwhelming, by more votes than anybody had ever won anything in Ecuador. And he began to implement these policies to make sure that the profits from oil went to help the people. Well, we didn't like that in the United States. I was sent down as one of several economic hitmen to change Roldos, to corrupt him, to bring him around, to let him know, okay, you can get very rich, you and your family, if you play our game, but if you continue to try to keep these policies you've promised, you're going to go. He wouldn't listen. He was assassinated. As soon as the plane crashed, the whole area was cordoned off. The only people allowed in were U.S. military from a nearby base and some of the Ecuadorian military. When an investigation was launched, two of the key witnesses died in car accidents before they had a chance to testify. A lot of very, very strange things that went on around the assassination of Jaime Roldos. I, like most people who've really looked at this case, have absolutely no doubt that it was an assassination. And of course, in my position as an economic hitman, I was always expecting something to happen to Jaime, whether it be a coup or assassination, I wasn't sure, but that he would be taken down because he was not being corrupted. He would not allow himself to be corrupted the way we wanted to corrupt him. Omar Torrijos, president of Panama, was one of my favorite people. I really, really liked him. He was very charismatic. He was a guy who really wanted to help his country. And when I tried to bribe him or corrupt him, he said, look, John, he called me Juanito. He said, look, Juanito, I don't need the money. What I really need is for my country to be treated fairly. I need for the United States to repay the debts that you owe my people for all the destruction you've done here. I need to be in a position where I can help other Latin American countries win their independence and be free of this terrible presence from the north that you people are exploiting us so badly. I need to have the Panama Canal back in the hands of the Panamanian people. That's what I want. And so, leave me alone. Don't try to bribe me. It was 1981, and in May, Jaime Roldos was assassinated. And Omar was very aware of this. Torrijos got his family together and he said, I'm probably next, but it's okay because I've done what I came here to do. I've renegotiated the canal. The canal will now be in our hands. He just finished negotiating the treaty with Jimmy Carter. In June of that same year, just a couple of months later, he also went down in an airplane crash, which there's no question was executed by CIA-sponsored jackals. Tremendous amount of evidence that one of Torrijos' security guards handed him at the last moment as he was getting on the plane a tape recorder, a small tape recorder that contained a bomb. It is interesting to me how this system has continued pretty much the same way for years and years and years, except the economic hitmen have got better and better and better. Then we come up with, very recently, what happened in Venezuela. In 1998, Hugo Chavez gets elected president, following a long line of presidents who had been very corrupt and basically destroyed the economy of the country. And Chavez was elected amidst all that. Chavez stood up to the United States, and he's done it primarily demanding that Venezuelan oil be used to help the Venezuelan people. Well, we didn't like that in the United States. So in 2002, a coup was staged, which there's no question in my mind, and most other people's minds, that the CIA was behind that coup. The way that that coup was fomented was very reflective of what Kermit Roosevelt had done in Iran, of paying people to go out into the streets, to riot, to protest, to say this Chavez is very unpopular. You know, if you can get a few thousand people to do that, television can make it look like it's the whole country, and things start to mushroom. Except in the case of Chavez, he was smart enough, and the people were so strongly behind him that they overcame it, which was a phenomenal moment in the history of Latin America. Iraq actually is a perfect example of the way the whole system works. So we economic hitmen are the first line of defense. We go in and we try to corrupt governments and get them to accept these huge loans, which we then use as leverage to basically own them. If we fail, as I failed in Panama with Omar Torrijos and in Ecuador with Jaime Roldos, men who refuse to be corrupted, then the second line of defense is we send in the jackals. And the jackals either overthrow governments or they assassinate. And once that happens and a new government comes in, and boy, it's going to toe the line, because the new president knows what will happen if he doesn't. In the case of Iraq, both of those things failed. Economic hitmen were not able to get through to Saddam Hussein. We tried very hard. We tried to get him to accept a deal very similar to what the House of Saud had accepted in Saudi Arabia, but he wouldn't accept it. And so the jackals went in to take him out. They couldn't do it. His security was very good. After all, he had one time worked for the CIA. He'd been hired to assassinate a former president of Iraq and failed, but he knew the system. So in '91, we send in the troops and we take out the Iraqi military. So we assume at that point that Saddam Hussein is going to come around. We could have taken him out, of course, at that time, but we didn't want to. He's the kind of strong man we like. He controls his people. We thought he could control the Kurds and keep the Iranians in their border and keep pumping oil for us. And that once we took out his military, now he's going to come around. So the economic hitmen go back in the 90s without success. If they'd had success, he'd still be running the country. We'd be selling him all the fighter jets he wants and everything else he wants. But they couldn't. They didn't have success. The jackals couldn't take him out again. So we sent the military in once again, and this time we did the complete job and took him out, and in the process created for ourselves some very, very lucrative construction deals. Had to reconstruct a country that we essentially destroyed, which is a pretty good deal if you own construction companies, big ones. So, you know, Iraq shows the three stages. The economic hitmen failed there, the jackals failed there, and as a final measure, the military goes in. And in that way, we've really created an empire, but we've done it very, very subtly. It's clandestine. All the empires of the past were built on the military, and everybody knew they were building them. So the British knew they were building them, the French, the Germans, the Romans, the Greeks, and they were proud of it. And they always had some excuse, like spreading civilization, spreading some religion, something like that. But they knew they were doing it. We don't. The majority of the people in the United States have no idea that we're living off the benefits of a clandestine empire, that today there's more slavery in the world than ever before. And then you have to ask yourself, well, if it's an empire, then who's the emperor? Obviously, our presidents of the United States are not emperors. An emperor is someone who's not elected, doesn't serve a limited term, and doesn't report to anyone, essentially. So you can't classify our presidents that way. But we do have what I consider to be the equivalent of the emperor, and it's what I call the corporatocracy. The corporatocracy is this group of individuals who run our biggest corporations, and they really act as the emperor of this empire. They control our media, either through direct ownership or advertising. They control most of our politicians because they finance their campaigns, either through their corporations or through personal contributions that come out of the corporations. They're not elected, they don't serve a limited term, they don't report to anybody. And at the very top of the corporatocracy, you really can't tell whether a person's working for a private corporation or the government because they're always moving back and forth. So, you know, you've got a guy who one moment is the president of a big construction company like Halliburton, and the next moment he's vice president of the United States, or the president who is in the oil business. And this is true whether you've got Democrats or Republicans in the office. You have them moving back and forth through the revolving door. And in a way, our government is invisible a lot of the time, and its policies are carried out by our corporations on one level.
Desculpa, pessoal, eu esbarrei aqui sem querer, que eu queria passar para abrir a câmera para mim, mas já estava terminando, acho que faltavam 1 ou 2 minutos, e eu sei que o FOSTube bloqueou, né? Bloqueou não, derrubou a live. Eu estou vendo aqui a transmissão pelo Periscope, tá aqui, e também pelo Twitch. Então o que eu vou fazer? Pegarei o link do Twitch e vou compartilhar nos grupos. E também colocar lá no Telegram. Eu abri o canal no Telegram e vou colocar lá. E possivelmente também na plataforma do Sandro Rocha. Mas, conforme foi explicado, a CIA, olha, vocês podem estar certos, seguros, quando há uma revolta em um país, a CIA está por trás dessa revolta. A banda podre da CIA. Lembrando que a CIA foi idealizada pelo Conselho de Relações Exteriores, que pertence à família Rockefeller, o mesmo CFR que apadrinhou a campanha do Bolsonaro. E o orçamento da CIA é maior do que o de vários países. A CIA, como eu já falei diversas vezes, realiza operações, as chamadas Black Ops, que nem mesmo o presidente dos Estados Unidos sabe. Porque eles estão envolvidos com muitas coisas e falar aqui assim abertamente é até me comprometer demais. Tinha aí um bom número de pessoas acompanhando. Eu fui ver se estava saindo no canal Projeto Ezequiel 33, não está. Não sei porque não está sendo transmitido para o canal Projeto Ezequiel 33, mas estou vendo que sim, está saindo no Periscope, no Twitter, no Twitch e creio que também nessa nova plataforma a qual anunciei logo no início dessa transmissão, o D Live. É D de Diego, L, tudo junto, D de Diego, L de Laura, I de Ivan, V de Valentim, E de Eduardo. Então, uma pena, vocês perderam muitas coisas, mas eu vou disponibilizar o link de todo esse vídeo. No final aí eu esbarrei aqui com esse dedo nervoso e pulou. Mas acho que faltavam 2 minutos, se muito, para terminar o depoimento desse assassino econômico. E assim, eu creio que ficou bem explicado com esses 2 vídeos como nações ricas são escravizadas através de empréstimos, através de jogadas políticas, através da CIA, através da corporatocracia, através de jogadas não sempre, ou em sua grande maioria, não são ortodoxas, porque dá-se o dinheiro e toma-se todos os recursos naturais de uma nação. E o Brasil está caminhando a passos largos para essa escravização que já vem de anos atrás, e esse processo tem sido acelerado. Vou ficando por aqui, meus amigos. Foi um prazer novamente estar aqui com vocês. Lembrando que hoje à noite, às 21 horas, não teremos live. A live que seria realizada hoje será realizada amanhã, terça-feira, às 21 horas. Hoje eu tenho um compromisso pessoal e intransferível, tá bom? May Yeshua bless each one of you. I'll see you soon. Tchau.
Sure.